Human beings are not as mysterious as we like to believe. We often say that people are impossible to understand, that the mind is hidden behind layers of masks, that the heart is locked away where no one can reach it. And yet, in daily life, we are constantly revealing ourselves, not through dramatic confessions, not through big speeches, but through the smallest, quietest signals. The truth is that most of what we call personality is not something people announce. It is something they leak every day without noticing. The way someone enters a room, the way they pause before speaking, the way they hold their phone, the way they choose a seat. These are not random details. They are behavioral fingerprints. And the more you learn to observe them, the more you realize something unsettling. People are readable, not perfectly, not completely, but far more than we want to admit. Social life is not only about words, it is about patterns. And behavior is always a pattern. In psychology, there is a simple idea. The brain cannot hide itself, even when we try, even when we believe we are being careful, because the mind expresses itself through choices, and choices leave traces. Think about how often people believe they are being neutral. They believe they are simply existing. But even neutrality is a decision. Even silence is communication. Even the absence of expression is an expression. The brain is always organizing the world, always reacting, always protecting something. And those protections shape behavior. That is why reading people is not about guessing secrets. It is about noticing what is already visible. Most people focus on what others say, but psychology teaches us that what people say is only the surface. The deeper truth is in what they repeat, what they avoid, what they emphasize, what they cannot stop doing, because repetition is rarely accidental. Repetition is structure, and structure reveals the inner world. For example, notice how some people always rush to fill silence. They cannot tolerate pauses. They cannot sit inside emptiness. They speak quickly, laugh quickly, move quickly. On the surface, this looks like energy, but psychologically, it often reveals anxiety. Silence feels like exposure. Silence feels like uncertainty, and uncertainty feels unsafe. So the mind protects itself with noise. Other people do the opposite. They speak slowly. They leave gaps. They let you wonder what they mean. This can look like calm, but it can also be control, because withholding is also power. When someone speaks less, the room leans toward them. The brain of the listener begins to work harder, and that imbalance creates influence. Behavior is never just behavior. It is always strategy, even when unconscious. That is why small details matter. The way someone dresses is not only about fashion, it is about identity. Clothing is one of the most immediate psychological signals we send into the world. Some people dress to disappear. Neutral colors, minimal presence. They do not want attention. They want safety. They want to move through life without being examined. Others dress to be seen. Strong contrast, sharp edges, distinct style, not because they are vain, but because visibility is part of their self-concept. Being noticed confirms existence. The object is not the point. The meaning is. And this is true far beyond clothing. People surround themselves with objects that reflect inner needs. A carefully organized desk often belongs to someone who fears chaos. A messy room often belongs to someone whose mind is overloaded. A person who always carries the same worn item may not simply be sentimental. They may be anchored. The familiar object becomes emotional stability. Humans are not only social creatures, they are symbolic creatures. We attach meaning to everything, even to the smallest possessions. This is why psychologists say that preference is rarely only about function. It is about emotion. The brain constantly asks, what feels safe? What feels familiar? What feels like me? And the answers shape choices. That is why two people can look at the same object and experience completely different realities. One person sees a backpack. Another sees independence. Another sees escape. Another sees childhood. Objects become emotional anchors. And because humans live inside stories, we turn objects into signals. We tell the world who we are through what we choose to keep close. But reading people is not only about objects, it is about movement. The body is one of the most honest storytellers. Someone who walks quickly often carries urgency inside them. Someone who walks slowly may carry heaviness or confidence or resistance. Someone who avoids eye contact may not be dishonest. They may be overstimulated. Someone who holds eye contact too intensely may not be strong. They may be compensating. The body does not lie in the way language does, because the body is older than language. It is the brain's original communication system. Long before humans had words, they had posture, distance, touch, stillness. The nervous system speaks through the body. That is why behavior psychology is so powerful. It reminds us that people are not only minds. They are nervous systems in motion, and nervous systems reveal themselves. Consider how people respond to control. Some people need clear structure. They feel comfort in rules. They want certainty. They want predictability. Other people rebel against structure. They feel suffocated by rules. They want openness. They want possibility. Neither is right or wrong, but both reveal something. A person who clings to structure often fears loss of control. A person who rejects structure often fears confinement. The same behavior can mean different things, but the pattern matters, and patterns are what psychology observes. Social intelligence is not about judging people. It is about understanding the emotional logic behind behavior, because everyone has logic, even when irrational, even when contradictory. Human behavior always makes sense from inside the person's world. That is why reading people is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming aware. Awareness gives you freedom. When you understand the signals, you stop being manipulated by them. You stop being confused by inconsistency. You see the hidden motivations beneath surface actions. For example, think about how people handle attention. Some people constantly seek it. They perform. They exaggerate. They fill the space. This is often not arrogance. It is hunger. Attention becomes proof of worth. Other people reject attention, but secretly crave recognition. They withdraw, hoping someone will chase them. Withdrawal becomes a test. The mind says, if I disappear, will you still care? Behavior becomes a question. Many social behaviors are questions disguised as actions. That is why relationships are often confusing. People rarely communicate needs directly. They communicate through patterns. And patterns are easier to see when you stop listening only to words. Psychology also teaches something uncomfortable. People often reveal their deepest traits in moments they believe do not matter. How someone treats a stranger, how someone reacts to inconvenience, how someone speaks when no one is watching closely. These are the moments when the mask slips, not because the person is fake, but because self-control is limited. The brain cannot perform forever. Under stress, the default personality emerges. Under fatigue, the true emotional structure appears. That is why psychologists observe behavior under pressure. Pressure reveals priorities. Pressure reveals attachment. Pressure reveals fear. In daily life, you can see this everywhere. A person who becomes harsh under stress may not be cruel. They may be overwhelmed. A person who becomes silent under stress may not be indifferent. They may be flooded. A person who becomes controlling under stress may not be power hungry. They may be terrified. The surface behavior is not the whole story, but it is the doorway. Reading people is about walking through that doorway carefully, not assuming, not projecting, but noticing. And over time, you begin to see how social life is a kind of psychological language. People speak through choices, through tone, through rhythm, through absence, through repetition. And when you learn this language, something changes. You stop being surprised by human nature. You stop taking everything personally. You stop thinking that behavior is random. Instead, you begin to see the quiet machinery underneath, the nervous system, the emotional needs, the protective strategies, the longing for safety, the fear of rejection, the desire for control, the hunger for belonging. These are the forces shaping everyday behavior. And once you understand them, you realize the world is full of readable signals. The question is not whether people reveal themselves. They always do. The question is whether we are paying attention, because the person in front of you is not a lockbox. They are a story being told in real time, through posture, through preference, through habit, through what they cannot stop showing. And the more carefully you observe, the more you understand something simple. Knowing people is not magic. It is attention. It is patience. It is psychology in everyday life.